Stop playing with them,
Hi, I'm Nicola Cairncross. Welcome to my podcast. This is where we talk about entrepreneurship, digital marketing, being a digital nomad, and much, much more. I really hope you enjoy the show. Well, welcome, Philippa. I am absolutely delighted that you could join me on this episode of the relaunched A Better Entrepreneur podcast. And we've got an interesting back history, haven't we? Because we were friends a very long time ago, and you've been an entrepreneur that I've admired for longer than that. And then we didn't have we didn't really see each other much when our kids were sort of growing up. And now we're back being besties again, even though you're living in Valencia, which is the most magical thing ever.
I know, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? And that's life. You know, you come in and out of contact with people, and I think there's always a reason, you know, for that. And listen, when you go off and have friends, when you have kids, you literally you go MIA for like 18 years. I remember some very dear gay friends of mine from Brighton said, "We'll see you in 18 years." I'm like, "I'm going to be crazy, I'll be around." And then literally 18 years later, they met my kids and were like, "Wow, see, I told you."
So you're from the same hometown as I am, roughly. I'm from Worthing. You were Port Slade, weren't you? But Hove, oh right.
Exactly.
Hove, actually, yes.
It certainly wasn't Hove, actually. But anyway,
no. But then, I didn't actually meet you until you'd been off to New York and come back. And I remember you walked into a bar in Brighton with one of those conical bras on, but I hadn't met your brother. I had met your brother before that. Yes. So tell us a bit about your early life, because I always believe that entrepreneurs are either born or they're made through the circumstances their lives take. So tell us a bit about your early life, and then how you ended up in New York and what you did there, and how you ended up where you are now today.
Gosh, I haven't got enough time. Well, I left school pretty early. School didn't get me. I didn't get school. It was a really ugly affair, and I just couldn't wait to get out of there. So I decided to get out and start working, which is what I did. And I worked very early on making sandwiches at 5 o'clock in the morning. And wow. I had a little yellow van, and I went off into business and industrial estates in East Sussex, selling sandwiches out of the back of a van. And, you know, I actually loved it because I was free, I was chatting, I was talking to people. It was a laugh. It was, you know, so it was nice. It was fun. But you know, Brighton at that time didn't hold enough for me. And I needed to break out. I needed to go to the city. So I moved to London very early. I was 18, didn't carry on with further education. I worked in a bunch of restaurants in Covent Garden, and that was an absolute riot. And I made a fortune, because back in the day, with lots of tips and lots of lovely money, it was great. And I did that for a little while, but quite quickly realized it wasn't that fulfilling. And I knew I had something creative in me, but I'd never kind of had a careers officer that guided me, or anybody that really guided me in discovering who I was. I just don't think it was a thing back then, you know, unless you had a good education, unless you had a good teacher, unless you had a good careers officer, which I just didn't. I wanted to do something creative. So I went to the photographer's gallery. I'd always loved photography, always loved imagery. Went to the photographer's gallery and looked through their vacant jobs in a folder. I remember it being in a folder. To go and have a look at the jobs, you'd have to there's this big folder, and it had these plastic pages with all the jobs in there. And I wanted to get into photography or something. I didn't quite know what. And there was a job for an American photographer called David Montgomery. And I went for the job, and I got it. I blagged my way in, basically. I talked my way into the job, and that he was going to hire me. He wasn't totally sure. His agent was more sure than him. And so they hired me. They gave me a shot at it. And David had a studio on Edith Grove, just off the King's Road in West London.
Lovely.
And you know, that was a great experience. So I ran his studio, and I did that for a couple of years, and that was booking hair and makeup and making sure the budgets were all okay. And so it was the beginning of my production experience. So it was a perfect start. And then from there, I've never been that serious. I like to have fun in life, as you well know. And I didn't want to go head on into a serious career at that point. I was 21. And so I moved to New York. Why not?
That was, I mean, so unbelievably brave and so out of the ordinary of what everybody else we knew was doing.
It was 1990, and I think I had 3 or 4 phone numbers of friends of friends. And when you say phone numbers, these are, phones, actual phones, not mobile phones, or nothing like that existed. And I think I had a couple of £100. I mean, nothing, not a lot at all. Anyway, I was introduced to this guy who ran this incredible hotel. Was it in Chelsea or on the other side? I can't remember which side it was on. Anyway, downtown. And this hotel, I wish I could remember the name of it. Every room was designed by a different New York artist, and it was wild. There was furniture on the walls, some of them were black and mysterious, all sorts of stuff. So I stayed there until I kind of got things going. And I saw this job for a production assistant, production coordinator for a company, a live events company. So I went for the job, and the guy that ran the company was a guy called Mike Sinclair. And he was a Brit, and he was married to an American, set up this company. And he used to work for Stiff Records. And if you remember Stiff Records, they have the best branded logo in the world.
I worked for...
If it ain't Stiff, it ain't worth a fuck. And I love that.
But I worked for the guy who ran Stiff Records later in my life. Yeah. Liam Teeling.
Yeah.
Wow, that's such a coincidence. Carry on.
It's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Mike Sinclair did, I don't know if he was a sound engineer. He was very techie. So he had this company in New York, and I worked for them, and we put on a lot of live shows, a lot of live events, lots of unusual locations and venues as well. So, for example, we organised the DIFA Gala, the Design Institute Foundation for AIDS. I suppose that was about 1991. And it was set in the armory, in the New York Armory. So they took all the tanks and everything out of whatever was in the armory. And we built this series of shops and a big stage and lighting and sound. And we had Liza Minnelli and Bobby McFerrin come and play. So that was just one of our events, of many, many events that we did.
Oh, my God.
So
was this guy Sinclair? He wasn't Jill Sinclair's brother or anything, was he?
No, I don't think so. I think he's a different Sinclair. Or he might. I don't know. Do you know what? He just reached out to me, and we just got back in touch on Facebook after about 30 years, which is great.
Facebook's brilliant.
He looks exactly the same.
Oh my God, that's such an incredible story. So you didn't know that you could do all this. Had you been good at organising things? Had you done anything like organisational throughout your life, or did you just literally have a go at it?
It just seems to be my skill set. I'm good at getting stuff done. I'm good at organising people. I'm good at making deals, wheeling and dealing, and getting good prices and good rates, and bringing the whole party together, or the whole crew together.
Talking of which, never party with this girl, because she is good at bringing everything together.
Not these days, honey.
A night out, no, quite. A night out was very well organised with you, that's for sure.
Relentless, I would say, rather
than... Yeah, that was the word.
And I also managed the crew, the American crew, and these were New York hardcore bikers crew that would put up the stage, the lighting, the sound, and stuff. Yeah. Originally, when I started, I was in my early 20s. Originally, they were like, "Who's this girl? What's going on? She's a Brit," And by the time I'd worked with them a few times and proved myself, and had swollen eyes from the stress and God knows what, I don't like live, actually. They all took me under their wing, and anybody said anything to me, they would be straight over there and giving them a hard time. So I connected, I love people, and I love all sorts of people, and connecting, and people can have that preconception with me. They can think, oh, who's she think? But it's not. I'm very inclusive, and I love working with lots of people.
Yeah.
In New York, I did all these incredible live events over 3.5 years. And then when I came back to the UK, I just didn't want to work in live events at that time. So I thought it's quite easy to transfer your skill set into video production. So I did. So I freelanced for a while, and I got some good jobs, and I kind of learnt my trade, and I Luckily, I didn't start as a runner. I just went in as a production assistant and quite quickly worked up to an assistant producer and then a producer within quite a short time frame. Produced some incredible jobs and did a lot of travel. I've always traveled. I love travel and I love meeting people and I love making it all happen. So I was
where are we up to now? What year?
Where are we now? We're 95, I suppose. 90...
The year Phoebe was born.
There you go.
And Philippa was actually, I was having a champagne and strawberries picnic with you in Holland Park when my labour pains started. And
your waters broke, or your
no, they didn't. No, they didn't with Phoebe. No, it was the first contractions, and you actually drove us me and Irving to the hospital.
You reminded me of this the other day, and I just can't remember.
You can't remember? Well, it's good because you got us completely lost in a dodgy council estate in West London because we were heading towards Hammersmith Hospital and we didn't know the way. And
Queen Charlotte, yeah, that's where I had my kids.
I don't know if it was that fancy. I thought mine was called.
No, they'd renovated.
Have they? Right.
Barney was the first year they'd renovated. So when I went,
right, okay. Well, we were overlooking Wandsworth Scrubs in our rooms, but it was a water birth, so it was a fabulous experience. But you drove us there, and it's so funny that you can't remember doing that. And then we.
I kind of do now. You talked me back into it.
And then I remember you had. Oh, and I introduced you and your husband because I went to a party at Amber Music, who put music to video and TV production, things like that. And they had a Christmas party, and it was my first Christmas party after Phoebe was born, for my first time out, if you like. And I met John and thought, damn, he's so cool. Who can I introduce him to? And it was you. And the next thing you know, you're having Barnaby. And then the next thing I knew, you're heading off to live in Exeter.
Oh, hold on. We need to backtrack slightly.
We need to backtrack. But one thing I remember very specifically from that time was I was working for the space organisation, Benny Gray at the space organisation, which had Gray's Antiques, Alfie's Antiques.
I remember the Gray's Antiques. Yeah, amazing.
And he wanted me to launch. Well, first of all, I had to oversee the renovation of a cafe, the Victory Cafe. He wanted it all 1950s.
Yes.
And then he wanted me to launch it on a budget of about £2.50. I did the fashion show over the River Tyburn in the basement and got Vidal Sassoon to do the hair and Alfie's people were supplying the clothes, and I got all my mates up to model. I probably wrote you into modelling because you were thin as well.
Not me. Not me.
And then my sister was singing with her jazz band, and it was just a really amazing night. But I do remember from that time we spent quite a bit of time talking about careers and business, and you gave me, and anyone who watches this podcast will know that I'm always banging on about my Moleskine diary and how I lay it out, how my friend Philippa told me to. And here is the friend Philippa who actually gave me my time management system. And even though I've been through all of Stephen Covey's, I've been through all the time management stuff, I've come back every time to what you told me, which is always have a book that can fit in your bag where you write everything down. And on the left, on the right hand side, you put what you want to do this week and what your to-do list. And on the left hand side, you make all the notes, and then you close the thing up and you put it in your bag, and you've got everything you need with you to do your life and job.
And the thing is, I don't think that was a conscious effort. It's just I don't remember anything. But, I have a really bad memory. So I need to write everything down so I can remember it. And it's just how I've always been. I've always done that. So, that works for me.
Well, there you go. 28 years later. Because that's how old Phoebe is.
So going back to that time, so then I was freelancing, working for different people, and then I had an opportunity to set up my first company, and that was Love It Productions. So I set that up, and we landed a great job. So we landed a series of idents for Channel 4. It was sponsored by Rolling Rock for Channel 4. And it was some kind of party program or something. And we made these incredible idents. We went off to a house in Weybridge in Surrey. This had a big, big, big swimming pool. And we shot this party underwater. and a whole bunch of models jumping in and out of water. And, you know, this is back in the day where there were no GoPros, you couldn't buy anything off the shelf. We hired Mike Valentine, who was the underwater camera specialist. He came with his kit and his crew, and we had everything. It was amazing. In fact, we had Sian. Do you remember Sian? Amazing.
I do remember Sian. Yes.
Who's a makeup artist who's now gone on to live in LA, and she has a whole makeup brand, and she is phenomenal. And Mike Valentine shot a load of Bond stuff. He shot it all underwater. So that was a crazy, wild time. That was great. And the company went on for a little while. It had a few projects, but it just kind of, it bottomed out. And that happens. And when things do, you've got to be a grown up and put your hands up and walk away before.
So were you in Exeter by now, or were you still living in London?
No. Still in London. Okay. And at that point, had I had kids then? Yeah, probably around that time-ish. Yes, that's right. Because, and I remembered this when we were talking the other day, I have two children. My son's 23 and my daughter's just turned 19. And when I had both of them, I set up a production company each time. And that's pretty crazy. And the thing is,
just to stack things up.
Well, I realised why I did it, because I'm a great mum, but I'm not a great 24/7 mum. And I didn't want to lose my identity. And I think I was exactly the same. People around me losing their identity, going nuts with a baby on their boob. And I was like, and I only work part-time, but I set up 2 production companies, and then I burned out a year later, of course. You know, we can't do everything. We just can't, can we? You know.
I remember sitting in the, we had our record label at the time, and well, just before that, and I remember sitting on the stairs at David Sloane's office in Bayswater, breastfeeding Phoebe while they were signing the record deal. It was just, it was great. Why do women do that to themselves? Well, exactly what you said. We need to keep some women need to keep a sense of who they are through being a mum. And that does make you a better mother, I think.
Mm-hmm. So this is a turning point here. So I'm just looking at my notes and realizing, and it's like, I just know I'm not a very good 9-to-5. I know I'm not very good working for other people. I can do it, and I can do it for a short burst of time.
Yeah, 18 months is my limit.
Oh, yeah, that's quite long. But, I know I'm a good self-starter, and I know I'm a self-motivator, and I know I can be totally fearless. And so then came Pretty Cool Productions, which I set up in 2005 with, this is a bittersweet story, by the way.
Okay.
So I set up Pretty Cool Productions in 2005 with a friend, Jane Bradley, who was an international makeup artist. I think you remember Jane. And we were the pioneers in making how-to videos, not videos, DVDs. We made.
I had the DVD, yes.
The DVD with chapters, and our point was, if you want to look like a celebrity, you have to do this. It takes time and effort, but it's worth it, right? So we made the DVDs. It was great. We were getting sales. We put in our own money. And we were getting sales, and we'd made back our money, and we were getting better and better, and we were introduced to lots of different people, and things were going really well. And then, do you remember the launch of the Boots? Here Come the Girls. That campaign was launched in 2007
for Boots.
For Boots.
I do remember the ad. Yes, I do remember the ad.
And with the launch of the campaign, you got a free DVD, makeup DVD.
Okay.
And they plagiarized our DVD. They copied it like for like, word for word.
Wow.
With a different celebrity makeup artist. So basically we were fucked, right? So Boots rips you off. What are you going to do about it?
Well, so every big corporate rips you off. Yeah.
We went to lawyers. We went to IP lawyers, intellectual property lawyers, and we had meetings. And they said, basically, if you want to take on Boots, this is kind of what
how deep's your pockets, you
need to start off with $100,000 if you want to fight, but you probably lose. So you're probably going to lose that money. So we just had to put our hand up and say, look, we did a great job. We know that we're proud of what we did. And we just called it a day, which was a shame. So that was Pretty Cool Production.
I had exactly the same experience with the Financial Times and my Money Gym brand. They opened a sub part of the Financial Times called the Money Gym. And I had, I had URLs, I had the book, I had all the everything that could prove I started it in 2000 or so, and they were trying to do this in near to 2010. And yeah, same thing. You can't fight it, even if you've got even if you've got it trademarked. Unless you've got very deep pockets, you can't fight it. So best to move on. You're right. So what did you move on to?
And you know what? That makes my heart race again, because we were so distraught. We were so upset. We'd put so much time and effort into that, and we really felt passionate about it. And actually, we did end up working with a Middle Eastern company who turned it into an app. And this is 2007.
Wow.
This is a long time ago. And so we did sell a little bit, but we'd lost it by then. It was time to let that go and just know that we'd done a good job and just move on. So
it's on your CV. I always think to myself, it was a good one. It's on my CV.
And so one of your questions was, what's the toughest time? I mean, that was a pretty tough time. That was a very tough time. And, when you hear, when you find out what's going on, your heart sinks, you're just absolutely distraught.
Yeah.
But then another time, I've got another bad time as well, because that's, I think an entrepreneur or somebody in business, you got to roll with it. It's like highs and lows.
Yeah.
And in 2020, I'd been building my business, Wild Horse Films, and it'd been getting better and better. And I'd hired a bunch of people, and I'd got offices, and things were going well. And the BBC were coming down to. Oh, I moved to Exeter by
I was going to say. So what prompted the move to Exeter? I know you bought an amazing house.
Well, before that, actually, so hold on. So just backtracking slightly. So when the kids were really young, we were living in West London. We were living in Portobello Road, and then in Queen's Park. We bought up there.
I remember the house in Queen's Park. It was just around the corner from our house that we were renting in Queen's Park.
Yeah. And John, my now ex-husband, was a composer. I was producing. We had 2 young kids, and we were just burnt out. We were exhausted. We were knackered. And it was time for a new life or a new wife. I think that's how I told John. I was like, it's time for us to leave. I don't want the kids growing up here. I don't want us burning out. We're exhausted. Let's go. So we did. So we put a pin on a map. A friend of mine, actually, bless her, Felicity, said, don't just buy in Devon. You don't know Devon. Go and rent somewhere first and then buy. And that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
So what we did is we rented the old vicarage in Salcombe. So we lived in Salcombe for 6 months, and we got a little boat and we potted around in Salcombe, and it was all rather glorious. And this was a time of the pretty cool thing as well. So it was all, it was a tough time, but a joyous time. And then we'd broken away from London. We'd sold 2 properties, and we were, life was sweet. And then we found Thornworthy House. And I saw it in Devon Life magazine, actually. And I was flicking through Devon Life magazine and saw this house. I went, that's the one. That's the one I want. So,
and tell everyone what Thornworthy House was.
So Thornworthy. So my mum was down at the time visiting from Sussex, and we drove. I think John was busy or whatever it was, and so we drove up to Thornworthy House, and we got to the village of Chagford on Dartmoor, and then we kept driving, and we kept driving, and we kept driving, and then we went over a cattle grid, and then we kept driving, and we were up. We ended up 1,000 foot on top of the moors at Thornworthy House after you open the gate at the bottom by the stream, and then you go up a beach-lined track.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
And then you kind of drive around, and then you see the view that this house has, and then you see the house and go, wow, amazing. So it was a big house, big chunk of a house, and it had 2 cottages. So we put everything into that house, and we brought the kids up on Dartmoor, in the middle of Dartmoor, in the middle of nowhere.
And wasn't it either owned by the person who wrote the Chamomile Lawn, or it featured in the Chamomile Lawn?
Yes. And what's her name? It's gone out of my head.
It has gone out of my head.
Wesley.
Mary Wesley, that's it. Everybody will know. Was it owned by her, or was it featured?
She rented it in the 60s and taught kids there as well. There was also Lord and Lady Waller who lived there as well for a time. It was originally there, so it was quite a good house.
Historic house, yeah.
Historic house, and living on top of the moors in middle of nowhere. You got to have dogs, ducks, chickens, horses.
Yeah.
So we did. So we all got horses. My daughter started learning riding at 4 years old, and we spent our weekends hurtling around the moors on horseback with dogs chasing us, and living the dream. We lived the dream.
And social media was going by then, so I was following you from afar. I was so deeply. I mean, obviously, well, New York to London to Exeter,
to
Dartmouth, Dartmoor,
Dartmoor,
and then and all the riding the horses and the dogs. I was so jealous because it looked idyllic, but I suspect it wasn't quite so much.
No, it was. It totally was. So the thing, a lot of people said to me, "Oh my God, Philippa, you're going to last 2 minutes. You're a city girl. There's no way you could last on the moors." But it's not true. I love change. I love doing different things. I love the countryside. I didn't realize how claustrophobic I'd felt living in cities all my life until I moved to Dartmoor and discovered nature and discovered horses and discovered that life. And I loved it. I totally loved it. And bringing up my
I bet
kids,
you made loads of friends down there as well, because you're so outgoing.
lots of friends, lots of parties, a perfect party house,
Oh
So,
yeah,
so
people could come and stay and stay overnight. And
so the funny thing is I was like, okay, I'm going to be a country wife for a while. Let's see how that works. And I think it lasted about 2 months. And then I was like, oh my God, I need to do something. And luckily in the village, the head of production for the head of production at 24. So 24 is a big broadcast company that's in London and Plymouth. And cut a long story short, I got a job as a producer director and worked on a whole bunch of projects down there. So that was cool. And then I worked on, and this is it's the beginning of what's happening in my company now, actually, but it started way back then, I think in 2008, is I worked on a project. It was for BBC Worldwide, and it was sponsored by DuPont, and it was a series of ads. And it was about how we're going to feed the world, how we're going to protect the world, how we're going to house the world, and all those sorts of different sustainable areas. And we went off and we shot a dozen 2-minute commercials for the BBC. And we went to Malawi and filmed in peanut farms, and we went to Brazil and filmed with the Sao Paulo Police Department, and we went to Chile and filmed salmon farmers, and Mexico, where else? We went all over the place, the place. Incredible films, which were very highly regarded. And at the time, they were mini docs, and at the time, mini docs weren't really a big thing at that point. So it was the kind of beginning of that era, which was great. But I worked for 24 for about 3.5 years or something, and then you just get to the point and it's all about the bottom line, and they don't want to put the money on screen, they want it, the profits, and it's just how it goes with the company. So
if it's not yours.
And so I took a break after, because I'd worked so hard on this series, and when I came back, it was like tumbleweed. It was like, oh my God, I left as the golden girl and I came back and it was tumbleweed, and just the whole politics of a big company, and you're like,
that's another reason why I've never done well in corporate, because I absolutely cannot stand politics. I'm borderline autistic, I suppose, because I just don't get it. I don't get what's going on. Why can't people just be straightforward and say what's on their mind? I can't play the games, and I
think they were pissed off I took a month off, and I'm like, listen, either I burn out or I walk away, and I ended up walking away. But that was fortuitous, because what happened is Jane Bradley, who I made the DVDs with, had been working with Liz Earle, the makeup brand.
Right.
And she got me involved. They were launching, they were skincare before, and then they were launching their makeup range. And basically she got me involved in that. So I had to set up a company. And I remember jumping on a train to London to meet Liz Earle and have this kickoff meeting. I didn't even have a company name. I didn't know what my company was. Like, and eventually I settled on Wild Horse, because I am a wild horse.
I've always loved the name. I've always loved the logo. It's just very cool.
Yeah, well, I just need to be free, and if you give me freedom, you get so much out of me. If you pin me down, I'm gonna just run. So Wild Horse, so we produced 60 videos, how-tos and TV commercials for Liz Earle. So that was a great campaign to start the company.
Just to backtrack a little bit, Jane, just to give you an idea of the kind of level you were working at. I mean, Jane was Leona Lewis's preferred makeup artist, wasn't she? I mean,
yes,
she was
her own.
at
She
the top of her game. Yeah.
Yeah, she knew. Yeah, she worked with a lot of A-lister celebrities.
Yeah. And
Back
then Liz Earle
is A-lister or no lister. You know, these days there's many levels of lister, aren't there?
There is, yes, and yeah, we won't go into that. So Liz Earle is not a name I'm familiar with. So they were a skincare brand, and they were going into makeup.
They're colossal, yes. Liz Earle,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely colossal. They're nationally known. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So anyway, so Wild Horse, I had Wild Horse. We had some good clients, some good brands for a while, and then things kind of petered off. You know, things come in waves. It seems in my life. I'm not sure if that's the same with everybody else. And I was lucky enough to have the support of my husband to start making my own films. And I think I was a producer director, and so I'd always have a crew. And just backtracking to, in fact, we should pick up with it afterwards. What's changed in my industry over the years? So I was lucky enough to start making my own films. So I was always reliant on cameramen, sound men, editors to produce something. And I just thought, I just want to make my own films. I want to do it myself. So I bought some broadcast camera equipment and sound equipment and the software that I needed to edit, and I just taught myself.
Wow.
And I think always pick a subject that you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
So my first film was about my daughter's pony club, of course. They asked me, you know, as I was on the committee, they asked me to make a film. So I did, and I made this beautiful little film when they were at Brighton Arena, which is quite a famous equestrian arena in the southwest. And then I kind of edited and I put it together, and I sold it to Horse and Country TV. So I was thrilled that I did that.
Didn't you win an award for that as well?
I did, a little tiny award. Yeah, a little tiny award, but still an award.
Yeah, absolutely.
And went on, you know, if you follow your passion, so horses and travel, that's me. And I was really lucky at that time. And I went off to India to film the Marwari horses with the curly ears. And then I went to the States to film Mustang horses with Monty Roberts, who's super famous. And
if you're keen on horses, Wild Horse Films is now on YouTube, and you can actually go and watch some of these amazing videos.
There you go. And then I went to Iceland as well and filmed the Icelandic horses, which
was incredible. Yeah.
So that's all. Yeah. So that's
well, we're not quite up to date, are we? Because you've got another company at the moment, Start Point TV. Tell us how that got...
TV. So, well, it all leads together really. So 2020, did I say I went bankrupt?
Sorry?
Did I say I went bankrupt in 2020?
No. Tell me about that. Because I want this show to be absolutely 100% honest about the ups and downs of entrepreneur life, and I think you've talked about that completely. But really, in America, you can't be a success until you've gone bankrupt 3 times at least.
Apparently, yes. Once is fine for me. So with Wild Horse, so there was a divorce. I moved to Exeter. And I carried on with Wild Horse, and I really felt that we were getting in the broadcast space. So I put my money into it, and I hired some staff, and we had great premises, and we were developing loads and loads of TV ideas, which were amazing and brilliant. And we had BBC come and visit us, and we were talking to Channel 4, and it never happened. And then COVID happened, or it all happened at the same time, should I say. And so I had to go bankrupt because I'd put a lot into it, and I'd borrowed some money, and that's what happened. So, you know. And
you went to work for COVID in a shelter or a rescue?
No, so COVID, I couldn't sit at home because it just drive me nuts. And so I went, sorry, just backtracking slightly. It's really difficult to talk about that, being bankrupt as a woman. And it really does affect you, and it does have huge implications. And your self-esteem and your self-worth, and you think you've ruined. But once you've filed and you've said, that's it.
That's it. Getting to the point. I mean, I so wish you'd reached out then, because I went through it in 2011. And
the
everybody
relief,
I knew,
once you've accepted it, and the release of the stress and the pressure that goes with that. So
I was quite lucky because I was forced into it by the Inland Revenue, who decided that the previous year had been my best year ever, but suddenly my company folded in January 2010, and there was no money in the coffers, and I didn't. It's difficult to talk about that again, because
exactly.
and it's
Moving
even
on.
worse. It's important. No, it's important to talk about it because it, as you say, the leading up to it is the most terrible, stressful, tense time of ever, because you feel like a failure because you haven't managed to pull off the magical and save the company and all the things that entrepreneurs are supposed to do. And somehow you're at this moment, but the actual moment, I'd like to reassure anyone out there who is, lots of people are going to be going bankrupt soon. Lots of people, COVID killed their businesses, and they've hung on and hung on and hung on, and they've got massive loans and debts, and they can't service them, and they're trying to pull off a miracle. But let me tell you now, the bankruptcy system is the only thing that keeps entrepreneurship going, because if it wasn't such a wipe the slate clean thing, nobody would ever start again, because it's so traumatic going through a business failure. And actually, when you go to the bankruptcy people, or you're forced into it in my case, they're actually really pretty decent people, and they help you.
They are absolutely lovely. It's like having a friend at the end of the phone that understands every step of the way. Whereas you're talking to colleagues and friends and family, they don't understand the process unless they've been through it. And so you're talking to this person and you have the same person who takes you through step by step what you need to do. And it's almost like a godsend that they're on your side. They want to help you through as easily as possible.
And it was doubly embarrassing, humiliating, awful for me, because I'd been a money coach. I'd had the money gym. I'd written a book about money and wealth creation, and I'd followed my own advice. But the bit I didn't know was that there was a global economic crisis in 2008, which spread to the UK by 2010. And nobody in the property world was immune. Nobody in the wealth creation world was immune. I had an internet marketing company by then, but and we'd had the best year ever, like I say, the year before. But nobody was spending on marketing. So it was, and I can see the signs coming again. I really can. So, the fact, and so I was scouring. I had all these alerts set up for my name because I knew it was going to go into, is it the something almanac you get listed in as a bankrupt company? And I was mortified that this shouldn't. I knew I would tell people about it after the event, but I didn't. I wanted to get it over with and then be able to talk about it in the past rather than having it happen to me.
I was the same. I was just head down, get through it, and then you can tell people about it. And,
So, you got to this point of relief where you had to do it, and then what happened? What did you do afterwards?
Well, so then it was COVID, and I went and worked for a domestic abuse charity, and that was pretty humbling. Suddenly earning minimum wage, whatever it is, and it wasn't about the money; it was about just doing something to help. And in COVID, domestic abuse, I don't know what the percentage.
It skyrocketed, didn't it?
Yeah, it was crazy. So it just felt like I could help a bit, and I hadn't had.
Did it make you feel grateful that you weren't in that position? Because I think gratitude is one of the best antidotes to feeling sorry for yourself and helpless.
Well,
if you can turn that into gratitude.
I never had domestic abuse problems, and so I had a strong relationship. I had great kids. I had great friends. I had great support around me. I've just been crap at business occasionally along the way, But it was a case of circumstance as well. It wasn't totally my fault, but it is what it is.
2020, what did you do?
No, not 2020. So when did I? So I suppose. Yeah, so halfway through COVID, I was speaking to a friend and colleague, Thea Cole, who I'd known for a few years, and we decided to set up a production company. And the initial idea, Start Point 1.0, was to create digital media in the regions and have a live channel. So for news, for stories, for all sorts. And in COVID, there was a lot of discussion, and we spoke to a lot of people, and we needed to raise money to set up the channels to do this live streaming. And we'd actually got to the point where we could raise some funds. So it was getting quite exciting. And at that point, it was about a year into it, and it was COVID time, so everything just took longer and longer and longer. We just went, it's not going to work. The business model doesn't work. Let's not do that. Let's pivot. Let's change. Let's not take anybody's money. Let's just do it on our own. Do what we do best, and set up a digital agency, so a production company. So that's what we did. So Start Point 2.0 was launched, and we won a bunch of projects quite quickly between us. And we made a lovely series for BBC Bite Size, GCSE Music, and we used the Purcell School to film all the musicians playing the pieces.
Right.
And we went into a studio with Kemi Rogers from Capital Radio, and she presented it with all of this behind her. So they've only just launched, actually. It's taken a year to launch them. So they're now available on the BBC Bite Size. And we worked with some other projects and worked some other ways. And we were working with charities, and it felt like it was going off again. We were heading off in the wrong direction. And so, a couple of days with Thea, who's my business partner, and it always, when we get together and we spend a couple of days walking, talking, things happen. And we thought, do you know what, we can change this. Instead of us working with the little charities and getting tiny budgets, why don't we work with the big brands who have got their corporate social responsibilities, bring them in and then match them with a client, a charity, and then make some social impact, some great video content or a campaign. So that's what we decided. And then in the meantime, we met Louise Allen from the Spark Sisterhood. And this woman is just amazing. She's absolutely, truly amazing. I love her already. And she has come out of the care system, and she is absolutely passionate about supporting girls coming out of the care system. And at the moment, they come out at 16 and they're left to just get on with life on their own. They're not given any skill sets. They're not given any direction. They're not given anything. And a lot of them end up in county lines, prostitution, 0-hour contract paid, really crappy jobs. And it's not fair. So Louise has pioneering these new programs where she's taking 10 girls at a time, and she's taking them away for a month, and she's upskilling them in all those things that we would have learned from our parents. So
hopefully
how to clean, how to look after yourself, how to write a CV, how to go for an interview, what to say in an interview. So this is an incredible program, and there's some big brands that are paying for this program, and we're filming this program. We're also talking to some broadcasters about this as a series because it's ongoing. We'll just keep rolling it out around the country. And at the end, they can win an apprentice or an apprenticeship or a work placement. And a lot of big companies want to get involved because there is such a shortage of teenagers, young people coming out of education, and they're either put into universities or higher education, whichever way.
They're either sold expensive university courses that won't guarantee them a job at the end of it, or
exactly. And there's a lot of lovely apprenticeship courses, amazing apprenticeship courses. You get paid while you learn. And as long as you've got the right attitude going in, it doesn't matter about your qualifications. They're not interested in that. We also
high fat attitude, definitely.
Yeah, we did a piece of work for Automate UK, who are an engineering charity, and they are hiring engineering apprentices. And it's it's brilliant what they're doing. They've got, I don't know how many, 400 or 500 engineering charity companies signed up to the charity to feed into that, which is brilliant.
Yeah, there's a company locally that's Nelson was looking at it, my son, before he buggered off to Canada. They train electricians, and it's an intensive 6-week course, 12-week course, something like that, and then they've got a whole raft of companies that take their graduates from this intensive course. So there's a lot going on that nobody knows about.
Yeah. And we need to make everybody aware. So the Spark Sisterhood, and it's from care to career. That's the title thus far. I'm
going to get the link for that off you, and so I can put it in the description underneath.
Well, we're shooting a teaser next week, actually. So we're shooting a teaser with five girls, and
nice.
incredible. We've got the Royal Navy coming in, teaching them how to cook, and then they're doing a self-defense course with them. And then we've got other people coming in and teaching them different things throughout the day, which we're filming all of it. So that
lovely.
That's a kind of proof of concept, really, is what we're doing.
Yeah. And that's Start Point TV, and you've still got, now tell us about what we've been doing together with Wild Horse.
Well, exactly, that brings me on. So Wild Horse, Wild Horse is just me. It's just my thing. And even though the company went bust and that's the limited company is no more, Wild Horse was resurrected, and that was down to you.
Oh, well, no, let's backtrack a little bit. So what happened? You suddenly appeared on social media talking about going to live in Valencia, and you came up to see your family and said, shall we have lunch? And we had literally hadn't seen each other for 26 years. And my daughter Phoebe, who you were very involved with at the beginning, she came and had lunch with us, and then you buggered off to Valencia, and I thought that was the end of that, but it turned out not to be.
No, well, it's very funny because I'd left, I'm divorced 7 years ago. I moved to Exeter, and I said to my kids, I'm going to stay here and make sure I put you through your education and that I'm here. And you've got 2 great homes, one with your dad, one with me. Great. And then my son went off to university, and now he's living his life. And my daughter turned 18 a year ago, and I suddenly had this big fat epiphany going, I'm free. It was like, so I decided, I was like, okay. So I started looking in the UK where I wanted to be, and it was like, I don't want to be here. There's nowhere in the
sunshine.
UK.
I need sunshine.
So deprived of sunshine. And even though I love the Southwest, I've been there for 15 years, 16 years. It was like enough now. So anyway, I did a couple of recce's, and I flew. Some friends had mentioned Valencia, and I flew down, and I kind of recce'd it, as I say, and I just loved it. There's a great
See, I'd never even heard of it.
And there's a great beach, and it's a really beautiful old city as well. And there's just a lot going on here. There's a lot going on. So I kind of went.
The weirdest thing was you announced you were going to Valencia. In the same week, an ex-business partner and great friend of mine, Neil Asher, announced that he and his wife and their children were moving to Valencia in the same week. It was really very bizarre.
Who are now great friends, by the way.
Yeah. I had.
In fact, I'm going for dinner next week.
I woke up at 4 a.m. one day, and I thought, I've got to introduce them. I've got to. And I woke up literally, I couldn't sleep until I'd done that. So I got up and I typed an email to you, and I typed an email to Neil, and I hooked you up together. And then I went back to bed and went to sleep again.
Hysterical. Yeah, it's good. So my daughter, bless her, Biba, when I came back, I was all excited about moving. And she's like, Mom, can you please just wait till I finish my A-levels? I was like, okay.
So your son's a rugby player, and he's at university in Cardiff, is that right?
He was at university in Cardiff. So Barney, is 22, 23. He did sports science, but his passion was rugby. So he's played rugby his whole life. He was scouted quite young at 14, I think. And he was in the Exeter Chiefs Academy for many years. So they're cool. They're great. Both of them are great. So, and they've both been here. So I moved.
Only just in the case of your daughter.
And in the case of my son, he missed his.
Oh yes, of course. There were passport issues.
No, he just was late to the airport, so he had to get his next flight.
So let's talk about how you went about having identified Valencia as a place. How did you go about identifying places? Did you do any research about being a digital nomad at your age? And how did you go about having decided you wanted to live somewhere else? How did you go about it?
So it's slightly complicated these days because, of course, of Brexit. And we won't go down that rabbit hole of doom and gloom. That's what it is. It's just ridiculous. So, I thought my brother had a business in the south of Spain. So I did some research in Malaga as well. And I fell in love with Malaga.
Malaga's a lovely city. Yeah.
I mean, most people know it as a gateway to the south and the beaches, but actually Malaga itself is a really beautiful place. So it was a hard choice between Valencia and Malaga. And I thought, well, let me just start with Valencia. I can move around. So then what I had to do, so I'm a partner with so Thea and I are partners, and we've got our limited company Start Point. So then what I had to do from January was the process of getting a digital nomad visa. So to be able to work in Spain for 2 years only, I had to apply for a digital nomad visa, and that's a lot of paperwork and a lot of effort. And I hired a company to do it for me because that's overload, too much paperwork, too many T's and I's to be crossed and dotted. So that's the whole process I've been going through, and it's still ongoing. I've got my visa now, but now I'm about to go for my TIE, which is my police appointment, where I go and get my fingerprints, and then I get a TIE card, which enables me to fly in and out easily.
Right.
So I can be anywhere. So what I did is I rented a big house on the outskirts of Valencia with other digital nomads and entrepreneurs, and we've got
it's a co-living working kind of place.
Co-living working space, and I just thought it's a nice way to land somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I signed here for 5 months, and then in January I'm going to move into the city or move near the beach just for a change. So I thought I'd do 3 months, and then I thought, I don't know where I'll go after that 3 months. I can go anywhere I want.
Fabulous.
My business running, So it's not many points in our lives that we're free and able to do what we want to do.
It's hard, though, to decide what you want to do, especially when you've spent 20 or 8 years making all your decisions based around the well-being of other people, which is what we sign up to as mums. I know that, but it's difficult to come out the other end of that and know what you want now, because you're different after 28 years, aren't you?
And the thing is, I wasn't totally sure where. I mean, I knew I had to be within 2 hours flight of London because I still have to go back for meetings and filming and stuff.
Yeah.
But generally, I can spend my time anywhere in Europe. I wasn't going to go north.
God.
So I had to go south. And so I've ended up here for now. And I'll spend 2 years in Spain. And then I'll see. I have no idea where I'm going to be. Maybe we should do an update in 2 years.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm going to be interviewing regularly now. Because I want my viewers to get to know people, to get to know this whole swathe of incredible Gen X and boomer. I interviewed a fabulous boomer the other day. I mean, I'm not someone to put labels on people, but it just sort of helps people realise that life doesn't end at 30, or even 40 or even 50.
No, exactly.
we can just get started again. You can actually recreate a whole different life if you want to.
Exactly, and that's what I want. So there's another couple of things I wanted to mention. So then Wild Horse, that's how we started.
We haven't really talked about what that's doing now. So yes,
what that's doing, which is exciting. So Start Point works with the big projects, the big projects that take a long time to land. So, we're talking 3 to 6 months for a project. And in the meantime, cash flow can be tight. So it was like, okay, what am I going to do to keep the money flowing in that time? And you very smartly suggested using my skill set as a filmmaker to teach other people, and maybe to focus on my clientele being 45 and above, or Gen Xers, and people that can relate to me and our age. I know the youngsters are all making films and they're doing it like this and they're doing it on their phones. It's like, we need to do it slightly slower and with the right equipment. I can't. How can I edit my phone? I can't see it, for goodness sake.
Well, I know. That's what I said to you the other day. I said I do want my editing on my laptop. I can't even see on my phone.
Exactly.
But also, people coming. I work with a lot of professional women who are experts at their thing or in a topic, or have had an experience they've become an expert in, and they need to do it properly, because they know that all their peers are watching them, and they know that they've got certain standards they've adhered to all their life in their careers, and they need to do it properly. And that's why making video, it's simultaneously the most important thing you can do for your marketing and the most terrifying thing you can do for your marketing. So that's where you come in.
And so obviously, I'm happy behind the camera, directing, producing, shooting, editing, all those things. I can do all of that. So you've made me, you pushed the boundaries of fear, get in front of the camera and start talking about what I do. And it's, at the beginning it was really difficult, and it is still difficult, but I can do it. And the thing is, what that's enabled me to do is to offer that to other people to find.
And you came up with a fantastic idea, which I immediately copied, because it was such a good idea, which was that you're offering intense 5-day masterclasses for people, where you work with them for an hour a day and give them support in between, but the best thing is to get it done quickly, because if someone's going to start a new business, they want video content I teach them to create 12 bits of video content at the beginning, ideally, of a 12-week thing where they're testing an ideal client scenario. And they can work with you in 5 days to get to know how to then create those 12 bits of video content that I recommend.
And the thing is, it's terrifying and it's overwhelming. And what I'm trying to do is break it down into simple modules. And I did it before. I did it in person with a while ago, and it worked really, really well. And the women that I worked with walked away and were like, wow, this is amazing. We can now do our own video. And some got stuck and they came back to me. But overall, if you simplify it, it's easy. Yeah. But I think you get so much information and different people tell you different things and how you should do it. But let's just simplify it, Yeah. And I'm shooting all my films at the moment on my iPhone. It's like,
and if people go to Wild Horse Films on YouTube and look for your name, Wild Horse Films, they'll see how lovely your videos that you're creating for yourself are. But they really are. They're very beautiful, and they're very professional, and they're very classy looking. They're everything. And so you're really walking the talk on how to create your own marketing material videos. And that's what you're going to be showing other people how to do.
Hi, my name's Philippa. I've been producing video content for many years across many genres now. And I love it all. I totally love what I do, and I'm blessed. And so I think when you do what you love, it shows. So my world is all about stories, telling authentic stories. I think most people are absolutely terrified about getting in front of the camera, and that includes me, believe it or not. I'm much happier behind the camera, either directing or producing. And that brings me onto the course. I'm here to show you how to do it, and I can handhold you through this video masterclass. We know we need to capture your audience and get your message across quickly and concisely. That's what we're going to work on. It's only 5 hours, and at the end of it, you'll have your first video. Please get in touch and I can give you more information and tell you when we're running these classes. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Well, that's thanks to you, Nicola. I wouldn't have done it on my own. I would have avoided it as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, we work well together because we've known each other for so long. There's no bullshit here, is there? It's absolute straight talking, which is the best way to work. And that's not what you get in corporate life, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So you feel excited about that. You're working on your Spark Sisterhood collaboration, which is filming next week. And now, the other thing we've got to mention is suddenly there's this massive floods in Valencia. And I've got 2 friends there now, and I was like all over the news thinking, and I said to you, and you'd been out volunteering, hadn't you?
Yeah, it's horrendous, totally horrendous. So the floods happened over a week ago now. And, the news we were getting was just worse and worse. And what happened is in 1957, there were the last major floods, and the river went through the old city. And what they did after that is they diverted the river to the south side of the city. So basically the old river has become a park, which is incredible and lovely and great to hang out in. The new river is this massive industrial river with concrete sides all the way down, never going to be flooded. Well, it was crazy. Yeah. And I think it was the vast amount of water. There was a year's worth of rain in a day.
It was crazy. Yeah.
The river couldn't handle it. This new river couldn't handle it. And it just flooded the plains. So south of Valencia is all very flat, and it flooded it with mud and cars. So we went on the Friday just to help. I went with one of my housemates who's from Valencia, and so he drove us into an area, and it was, for the first hour, we were just walking with our mouths open going, oh my God, this is insanity. It's like, we saw the news and thought, okay, there's only 1 or 2 streets with a few cars banged up, Every single road, every street, every neighborhood was affected. Cars, every single car. I don't think 1 car survived because they had. So a car gets pushed in a flood at, I think, 1 foot or less than 1 foot, I think it is. And the water at the time of the floods last week was 5 feet. So that's why all the cars were pushed down and piled up and written off, and all these poor families. And the authorities weren't quick enough to react.
They weren't quick enough, were they?
And they're still very, very angry. But, you know, the people of Valencia were just going in hordes and hordes and hordes. And it was like watching
to help, to volunteer.
Volunteer with all these brooms and things. It was like all these people flooding into Reading Festival or something bonkers, you know. And it's still ongoing. So that's
I think the other thing that added to it, because I was all over it like a rash because there was nothing I could do here, but they over 20 dams had been built, and over the last few years those dams had all been knocked down. So the amount of water that was not being stopped from going into the river added to the huge amount of rainfall. It was just a disaster waiting to happen, really. But so has it made you feel different about Valencia or not?
Well, I mean,
do you feel a bit more vulnerable there?
I don't feel vulnerable. No, not at all where we live. But I feel bad. I feel bad about the people that have lost their jobs, their livelihoods, their homes, their cars, their everything. There's no trains, there's no metro service at the moment. There's a lot of police from out of town. I took my a friend to the airport yesterday, and there's police on all the major junctions, because they just need to get the services in and out, and can't have people stopping them. So they're all there to kind of orchestrate that. And it's going to be a long time sorting it all out. But in the meantime, we carry on, don't we? You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what women do.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You know, challenges as women, right? Or Gen Xers, I think you said. What are the challenges? And there've always been challenges. You know, sexism has always been a rife in my industry.
Yeah.
And now it's ageism. Now we're dealing with ageism. And we're this workforce that have got knowledge and experience. And companies should be embracing us and our knowledge, not saying, oh, you're too old for these jobs. But I wanted to mention a couple of women that have set up incredible groups.
Great idea.
And campaigning to all work together and support each other. So there's Susanna Hancock, who set up Gen X's, as you know, who's
on the Facebook group. Fantastic.
Yeah, bringing the community, building an incredible community of women supporting women. And then there's Tirza, whose surname I don't know, but the She Exclusive, I'm sure you can put the link in somewhere, is doing that in Valencia and the surrounding areas. And again, supporting women, Gen Xers, and just supporting each other. And that's what we have to do. You
introduced me to Susanna's group, and I'm not a group. In fact, funnily enough, my business mentor had just told me to join more groups. And I was like, oh, I don't think so, because I really don't like them at all, usually. But you introduced me to Susanna's group, which is the Gen Xers social and business group. And I will put the link in the description underneath. It's absolutely vibrant. It's full of incredible people. She is a force of nature. She is, by her own personality, she's attracting people to this group, and they are incredible people. And I'm really enjoying being a member of that group. And then Tirza, I was actually on a call with Susanna and some of the other people, because they do these hot seat calls. And Tirza was on there, so I was able to, she reached out to me on Facebook or vice versa, I can't remember, and I said, "Look, I'm a friend of Philippa's," So
Great,
it's already working. It's already working.
Supporting each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, it's been brilliant. It's been real.
Well, thank you very much, and I've learned.
Or are you done?
No, I mean, we've covered it. You've naturally, the conversations flowed through all the questions I would have asked you, which were, what are the high points, what are the low points, what made you make decisions? And now you're moving into a different phase of your life, which I hope is going to be incredibly flowy once it gets going. So there's nothing like being in the flow, is there?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to coming and visiting you and Neil in Valencia.
Absolutely. We can't wait to host you. Can't wait. Wine and tapas. Okay. Hello. One of my favourite things.
I love tapas, yeah. Good stuff. All right, well, go and have a great day. And I can see it's sunny there, whereas it isn't in the UK.
But do you know what? Again. I'm actually burning up because I closed the window because there's a school next door and you can hear the kids. So I'm really sunny.
You're too hot. You're not going to get any sympathy here, I'm sorry. I've got cold hands already.
Fine.
I'll see you when you come back.
So much, Nicola. It's been fun. It's been really good.
And I'm going to put all your links underneath. So if you're a Gen Xer or Boomer who is starting a business and needs some professional but easy to make videos once you've learned the tricks that Philippa knows, and if you're a big brand or a charity who is working with a big brand and who needs some fantastic video shot, to actually highlight your efforts and really help people, then you know where to go now.
Brilliant. Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross of nicolacarenext.com. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show today. We've got lots of resources on the website, so do come over to check them out. And by all means, feel free to book yourself into my diary at nicolacarenext.com/diary. I love to talk to entrepreneurs.